Greetings everyone, welcome back to Storytime Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the films from 2008, titled The Shutter. Before we start, I hope your day be filled with sunshine and smile. Enjoy the story. The story of Ben, a photographer, and Jane, his recent bride, is told in Shutter. After the couple gets married, they are going to move from their Brooklyn apartment to Japan, where Ben has been hired to take photos for a specific customer. In order to have a shorter honeymoon, the couple has decided to travel to Japan a few days early and rent a cabin. Jane asks a sleeping Ben to check the map when she gets lost in the car on the way to the cabin. Jane notices a girl cross the road as they try to orient themselves. She strikes the girl, veers off the path, and smashes the car into a tree. They both pass out. Upon waking up, Jane realizes that the girl might still be lying in the road and quickly exits the car to locate her. With Ben following closely behind, they eventually receive assistance, allowing them to proceed to the cabin. Ben believes that the girl was already located and received the necessary medical attention after they discover nothing. And when they are able to enjoy a few days of honeymoon at the cabin, he wants to take photos to document the occasion. Ben and his friend Bruno have to report for work a few days later. Ben has to meet with the clients immediately, so Jane goes with him but is largely left on her own. Jane cannot speak Japanese fluently, but Ben can. Afterwards, the two are brought to their house, which is a building where Ben has his photo studio and where they live alone. An image of an old chair sitting in an alcove captures Jane's attention. After getting to know Seiko, Ben's helper, but not before Jane is plagued by visions of the girl. Ben has been experiencing shoulder pain since the accident. Jane advises him to have it examined. Ben decides to ignore it. Eventually, she receives the honeymoon pictures, which have an enigmatic quality, and she shows Ben the pictures. Ben just thinks there was a camera malfunction. Once more, Jane is left on her own while Ben is at work. Seiko says that the light is spirit energy, not a mistake from the camera. Jane, who is intrigued, asks Seiko how she knows what the light is, to which she replies that her former boyfriend publishes a magazine for spirit photography. The following day, Jane and Seiko visit Seiko's former Yoko, who is the editor of the Spirit Photography magazine. While there, Jane discovers that the magazine is primarily made up of fake images, but that a Polaroid picture cannot be made, and that the magazine featured a psychic named Mures for his work deciphering the images. Ben visits the doctor because his sore shoulder doesn't go away. He is weighed a few times while he is there, and the physician informs him that there is no wound. Rattled by the light in some of his work photos that have gotten him into hot water with the client and a chance meeting with someone in the darkroom, he agrees to go to Mures with Jane. When Jane and Ben get to Mures' house, they show him the pictures and inform him that there was an accident. They think the spirit might be the one of the girl Jane hit. After taking the pictures, Mures starts talking passionately, but Ben only partially understands him and informs her that they are going. Ben does explain to her that strong emotions such as love, hate, or rage can cause spirits to bond with people. After seeing the project photos that the light damaged, Jane makes the decision to visit the office building shown in the picture where the light appears to be. Equipped with a Polaroid camera that she borrowed from Ben's studio, she makes her way to the building in order to capture images and try to discover any evidence of the ghost's existence within. Once there, she heads to the floor. During their first encounter, she discovers the girl's name is Megumi Okina via a broken picture frame that falls to the ground. Looking at the picture, Jane discovers that Megumi is in it, and her husband Ben took it. Ben acknowledges that he and Megumi had a relationship, but that she turned clingy and obsessive even though her traditional Japanese family disapproved of them when she confronts him about it. Megumi was clinging to Ben, who was making every effort to balance work and his budding relationship more than anything else because of Ben's disapproval. After Megumi's father, the primary disapproving person in the couple, passes away, Megumi develops an obsession and, at one point, considers suicide. Ben leaves Megumi after realizing this is too much for him to handle. Ben tells her that he never loved her and asks Adam and Bruno to tell her that the relationship is over and she should stop chasing after him. Although Jane is upset about it, she decides that they must locate Megumi. When Ben speaks with Bruno, he reports that Megumi was pointing at him when he last saw her on the street. Adam is at his photography studio. After asking her to remove everything but her underwear, he goes to retrieve his camera from a box containing several women in skimpy attire. He starts snapping photos and gets a glimpse of Megumi through the lens. The model starts to get agitated because he keeps stopping the camera. The next thing we see is that the camera lens has broken inside his eye, and he is getting ready to take another photo. When Ben gets a call from Bruno regarding Adam's accident, they're still in disbelief about this discovery. Ben says they're going to the hospital to meet Bruno. Ben calls his phone to try and find out when Bruno will arrive at the hospital after waiting for him for some time, and he does not show up. Bruno responds but says nothing more. As the camera pans out, he is using a razor blade to cut up photos into the shape of origami, and his hands are covered in blood. After leaving the hospital, Ben and Jane go to Bruno's house to check on him. When they get there, Ben starts searching the area for him, and Jane looks through the pictures on the table. At the end of the hallway, she spots Bruno, who looks like he's coming at her. Bruno hears Ben calling for him, so he dashes past Jane and leaps from his high-rise balcony. He has passed away. Ben is clearly upset. At this point, Ben and Jane have made the decision to go back to New York. Following the service, they can go back to their home. She opens a FedEx package she received containing pictures from their wedding when they get home to pack. Megumi appears in the pictures from their wedding. Ben and Jane, meanwhile, are at Megumi's house trying to find any clues as to where she is. They discover her, apparently long dead, with bottles of potassium cyanide scattered across the floor and signs of decay and FLIs. When they make the decision to check into a hotel for the night and vacate the apartment, Megumi's remains are cremated during her funeral. Ben and Jane hold hands while they observe the procedure. When they get back to New York, everything seems to have ended. When Jane wants to use her disposable camera to take a photo of the rose petal-shaped heart Ben left her, she has the pictures in an envelope when she gets home. She is horrified by what she discovers when she opens the envelope while making dinner. In the pictures of her and Ben frolicking around while still in their wedding clothes, the ghost of Megumi is visibly in the photos, crawling towards the couple and eventually standing near a portrait of Jane that Ben took. Jane looks in Ben's belongings for the camera that he used in Japan, and finds the removable drive in the camera, which she loads into the computer, and is disgusted by what she finds. Ben knows as soon as he gets home that something is not right with Jane. She opens the laptop and asks him what the pictures are of and how he could have done such a thing. When he asks her, we see a photo of Megumi in a precarious situation with Bruno and Adam. Jane is informed by Ben that Megumi was crazy, obsessed, and would not stop bugging him. After Bruno and Adam became involved, Adam proposed to her to give her some stronger sleeping pills and to take pictures of her in unflattering poses so they could use them as leverage to blackmail her into leaving Ben alone. But Adam and Bruno, who were probably intoxicated themselves, took advantage of Megumi and pressed themselves on her. Jane is devastated to learn that Megumi was merely trying to warn her about the man she loves and that she had no intention of hurting her. Ben is left alone in the apartment when Jane leaves. Ben pulls out a Polaroid camera and starts taking pictures of the apartment in an attempt to find Megumi. The images don't show anything, so he drops the camera in a fit of rage, and it snaps a picture. Megumi is seated on his shoulders when he picks up the picture and looks at it. This clarifies his injury and the reasons behind his shoulder pain. He puts a photography light around his neck and connects a lot of power to it in an attempt to get rid of her for good. Ben can be heard screaming as the building's power goes out. In a medical facility, Ben is the patient in the room. He looks to be completely comatose, with his head thrown back and neatly shaved. The nurse locks the door and exits the room. As it closes, Ben is seen to be hunched over as the spirit of Megumi embraces him.